Luther's Bible came out in 1522. Tyndale's came out in 1526. There are those who say that he was heavily influenced by Martin Luther. Yes and no. Tyndale was his own man. You can read some of Tyndale's writings and see how he was influenced by Luther in certain areas, but Tyndale was his own. He had his own mind about things. There's big differences between those two, and I might be veering off a little bit. Luther had the protection of a prince. Frederick the Wise was a prince. He had protection of. He had a wife. He had a university. He had a lot of levels and a lot of different ways to be covered. And Tyndale didn't have that. Luther had the tower that he translated his New Testament in, and his German New Testament became normative German, the same way that the Tyndale's New Testament, 1526 New Testament, became normative English. I mean, you consider that the English at the time, according to Thomas More, was at the bottom of the pond. Like William Tyndale would say, they pray in Latin, they bless in Latin, only they curse in English. So the English language was kind of a yokel tongue. But here Tyndale came along and through the New Testament gave it a majesty and a highness that it did not have. And so by the time it was smuggled into England in the 1520s, 1526 and thereafter, the appetite was the people were famished for it. And so you can see how another generation of people just feeding on the Word, feeding on Tyndale's Word. A generation after Tyndale comes Shakespeare, comes the English theater, and then a generation after that is is Shakespeare and the King James Bible. And I didn't really I got on a little rabbit trail there, but Luther did a very similar thing with his people, but they were. We don't really know if Tyndale ever actually met Luther. There's some speculation that he did. He certainly respected Luther, but Tyndale took heat that Luther didn't. Luther could stay in one place and do his Bible. Tyndale was in Hamburg. He was in Cologne. He was in Amsterdam. He was on all kind of different places, Wittenberg perhaps, and he had to learn Hebrew while on the run. He did the Old Testament from Genesis to 2 Chronicles and the Book of Jonah, but in the 12 years he had to translate while he was away from England, he learned Hebrew during that time, which blows me away. That's on the run.